What's going on, guys? My name is Sam, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I went from loading pianos into the back of my pickup truck with wooden sides for walls to now having a new truck with a dump trailer and making over $170,000 a year in gross income. Let's do it. So I have been doing junk removal for a little over a year and a third, I think. So like maybe a year and 3 or 4 months. And in that time, I have learned so many lessons. And I'm going to share with you guys at some point during this video the things that I would do differently and some of the mistakes that I made along the way, because there have been a lot of them. Including a mistake that I made really recently, and I'll share with you guys what that is. But I figured that I would kind of let you guys know, particularly if you are starting junk removal, if you're wondering, is this something that I should get into right now? How quick is it to scale your business? And it's going to be completely different for everybody. But for me, it took me a pretty decent amount of time to get to where I felt like I kind of knew what I was doing a little bit, but then again, every day I feel like I kind of don't really know exactly what I'm doing. And that's kind of the thing about being an adult, is that you never really truly feel like you know what you're doing, and you really feel like an imposter a lot of the time. That's kind of how I feel. But let me tell you guys a little bit about how I started my company. So it was late July, and my wife worked a job in accounting, and I was kind of finishing up school, and I had just finished, and I was like, okay, she's kind of the breadwinner right now. I really want her to not be the breadwinner. And maybe that was kind of like a competitive side of me, that I just really wanted to be the one that made most of the money in our family. I wanted to be the one that, could afford us a house, that could afford us the vehicles that we wanted, the lifestyle that we wanted. If she wanted to stay home with our kids, I do have one son, and we're planning on growing our family. I wanted to be the one that did that. So I decided that I was going to do junk removal. The way that I got into junk removal is I was on the phone with somebody at a sales job that I held very briefly, and he told me that he had a pickup truck to start, and he just started hauling people's junk. He was doing kind of like trash outs, I guess. I don't know if he took just household garbage from people, if he started a company where he was doing like trash cans or anything like that, but he basically just said, if you have a pickup truck, you ought to start it. I had a pickup truck already, and I decided, you know what? What's the worst thing that could happen? I'm gonna get a logo. I'm going to design a little sticker to go on my truck, and that's basically what I did. That's how I started. My company's name is Bold Faith Junk Removal, and the reason that it's Bold Faith Junk Removal is because I'm a Christian, and because I believe that in order to be a Bible-believing, God-fearing Christian right now, that you have to have bold faith in today's crazy, wacky, wild world. I actually got a lot of pushback at the start from people that I pitched that idea to, because they were like, what if, you really don't want to get religion involved. And I actually would push back against that and say, you need something to stand out in this kind of oversaturated market. I say oversaturated. I think that you can start a new company and you can do well if you just do something better than the other guy. But for me, the big, I don't want to say gimmick, but the thing that separates me, in my opinion, from my competitors is my faith. So that's something that people can really rely on and say, okay, he's putting God or Jesus, his faith on the line here when he is doing a job. His reputation matters for a lot of different reasons, because he's trying to represent Christ. So for like J-Dog Junk Removal, for example, they are veteran owned. They are putting their reputation on, hey, we're ex-military guys, we're veterans, we're noble, like this is a noble cause. If you look at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, they're just kind of the biggest and best known. Their advertising is so good. They kind of establish the whole industry, so they don't necessarily need a shtick, but I would recommend that you get something that really sets you apart, whether that be, something with your branding, whether that be something about what you stand for, it could be something to do with how you recycle things, whatever. But that was kind of how I started, was coming up with a company name, coming up with a company logo, making sure that it was something that people would really remember. And I think that I accomplished that. So yeah, I had a logo printed. It was, one of those cheap stickers off of Vistaprint. I smoothened it out on there, and I thought that it looked horrible because you could still kind of see the outline. I thought that it would be like completely transparent. It did not look transparent. I actually did get a few calls based off of that, and so I would definitely say that it's worth it. So that was the other thing that I did at the start. Then I got my LLC filed through a site called InkFile. I think that it costs a little bit extra to do it, but to be honest, all that stuff, filing all this different stuff was such a headache that I recommend it. If you have a few $100 to spend to start this business, which I would recommend, particularly if you already have a pickup truck, if your startup costs are $1,000 or so, just take the plunge. I mean, if you get a few junk removal jobs, you'll make that money back. It's really not a whole lot of cost to start up, which is also partially why the market's kind of saturated in junk removal. Once I had done those things, I had figured out all my branding, figured out how to have an LLC. I went ahead and I did a few jobs. So the first thing that I did was I started messaging people on Marketplace, which is actually a really interesting and a really good way, I think, to kind of get your first business. When you don't have any Google reviews, you don't really have any reputation built up. One really good way that I started getting my first bit of business was by messaging people on Facebook Marketplace saying, hi, my name is Sam. I'm the owner of a small company called Bold Faith Junk Removal. If you are having a hard time getting rid of this item, these are my rates. I'd be happy to take care of it for you, make sure that it's gone soon. A lot of people, particularly if they're listing free stuff on Facebook Marketplace, just want something gone, and you're probably not going to get the greatest price to remove it, but if you're trying to get those first few jobs, get some Google reviews, it can be a really good way to do it. For me, the first job that I got was actually removing one of those upright pianos, and I removed it and put it in the back of my pickup truck. I had a very, very hard time getting it done. I had my family come with me because, I really wanted to make a good impression on my first job and not struggle mightily to do it all by myself, and I'd never removed anything like that before, so I really wanted to have a little bit of help. Actually, I had removed a piano before, and it was kind of a nightmare, but that's a whole nother story. So yeah, I charged $100 to come and remove a person's piano for them. It was very close by where I was at, so I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I just wanted to get my first job so badly. And now, if I were to remove a piano, I would probably charge $250 at a minimum, because you have to have, or at least I like to have, a second person. And, it takes up a decent amount of room in the trailer, but it's really just how difficult it is to get it out. So when you're starting, you're probably not going to be able to charge a whole lot of money, and that's okay. You're trying to build your reputation. You're trying to get good word of mouth, which is another awesome thing that you can do by just getting as many jobs as possible. Even if you're not making a ton of money, getting your name out there is priceless. So after I'd done a few jobs, kind of some odds and ends, I decided to go ahead and build some wooden sides up on my truck. And that definitely made a big difference, although it was pretty scary for me sometimes because I didn't think that I built the wood sides on my truck the absolute best. I was using kind of some pieces of scrap wood, trying to do it really cheap. It worked for me, never had any issues. I also got a cargo net to throw over the wooden sides just so that nothing would fly out. I was really paranoid in those early days that something was going to fly out, and rightly so, because I didn't necessarily understand just how dangerous it was hauling a mattress across the highway, just how much the wind would make things just fly up and almost out of the trailer. So definitely recommend, if you're going to do this, invest in some good ratchet straps early on. If you are watching this video and you have not subscribed to my channel, just go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you will be notified every single time I upload a new video, and you will be able to follow along with me on this junk removal journey. So also very early on in the process, I started my Google My Business page. I think it's just called a My Business page now. I might be totally wrong, but basically when people go online to look at junk removal companies in the area, your company will show up on Google Maps that way. And that's a great way to get business if you're located somewhere that's good for junk removal. If you kind of have your service area a long ways from your house, it's not necessarily as good, but if you can on your Google My Business profile, make it say that, make it show your address where you live. Now, for some people, you might not want to do that and you can just do a service area, but as far as getting some extra calls from people in your area, it does really well actually to list your address on there. I get lots of calls, even when I'm not running ads, from people in that area because I'm just the first listing that pops up because I'm really close by. So after that, I started Google Ads and did not have a whole lot of success early on. And so I went with something that a lot of people think is kind of a bad idea, and it's local service ads. So local service ads, if you're not familiar, it's basically pay per call as opposed to Google Ads, which are pay per click. So you're going to pay, in this industry, $40, $50, $60 sometimes for a phone call with local service ads. And long term, it's not a good thing, probably, because your cost per conversion is just really high. But when you're starting out, you can get a lot of business doing that because you're going to pop up a lot earlier than those regular sponsored ads or any website listing. So it's definitely a really good way to start out. That was how I got most of my business in the early days because I didn't have my website designed very well and that kind of thing. Also, I designed a website. I would definitely recommend that you go a different way than Squarespace like I went, just because I don't think that the SEO features are great and it's kind of clunky to design your website. Feel like it's just not super intuitive personally. So once I had finally gotten things rolling with the local service ads, a little bit of Google ads, I went ahead and bought my first utility trailer. And it was a 12-foot utility trailer, and looking back, it was probably a really bad deal. I got it for $750 or $800. No, that's not what I got it for. I think I got it for $1,300. I got it for $1,300, pretty sure. And it was not in the greatest shape. I think it was pretty rusty. The floorboards had just been replaced, so that was really good. I needed to rewire it, which took me a little bit of time, but I learned a lot of stuff about wiring, which was very invaluable information because I had to maintain it a lot. I had to rewire it and do all kinds of stuff like that all the time. And then I built up plywood walls on the sides of it, which was pretty sketchy at some points. I felt like I constructed it pretty darn well, but when you're going down the highway with stuff, you second guess yourself a whole lot. So there'd be lots of times where I'd pull over and just make sure my walls were in good enough shape. Some guys do really crazy stuff going down the highway. I was always a lot more risk averse in that way, but it served me well. And that trailer made me a lot of money. It was a pain in the butt hand unloading it, but it made me a lot of money and it allowed me to do a ton of jobs that I never would have been able to do before. So after I'd been going for a while, I started to feel like I needed an even bigger trailer. And so I got an 18-foot trailer, and it was another utility trailer, and this one was about $2,300. This thing had a working electric jack on it. It was just in much better shape. The guy that had sold it to me had done a lot of work on it, had done a lot of wiring, made it just a much nicer trailer. And so I built plywood walls up on that as well, and that was a whole nother project. I was a little bit more experienced by that point, and so I felt like I built that one up better, and I actually still have that trailer and I use it for scrap mostly now, but then I also keep it in case I have a bigger job. And so it still serves me well. That was the point where I finally had started to figure out my Google Ads a little bit more. So I realized that by using different negative keywords and by using broad, exact, and phrase match keywords, that I could kind of control who was calling me a lot better. I'm still trying to figure all that stuff out because Google loves to spend your money. Whether you're getting good calling customers or not, Google's going to spend your money. So you have to be very careful to tell Google exactly what you don't want, because the amount of calls that I get that are donation, that are charity, that are goodwill, that are whatever, free. Like, I don't understand why there are so many people that will call you. Like, I had this one old lady that called me 3 separate times that had a couch that she said had been eaten up by her rabbit. And she was trying to convince me that it was good enough to where I ought to take it for free. She called me 2 other times thinking I was a different business. But yeah, Google will give you some crazy calls if you don't tell them what to target. I could make a whole other video talking about the different keywords and how I target things and just kind of the things that I've learned, because I feel like I could explain it in simple terms, because I feel like a lot of people don't explain it for stupid people like myself to understand. And then fast forward, and I get very tired of hand unloading my 2 big trailers, and so I decide I need something that's going to be able to pull a dump trailer for when I finally decide to get that. It was the summer, it was like 95 degrees. I'm hand unloading an 18-foot trailer every single day at the dump. I am just killing myself. I'm making good money, but I'm just killing myself. And so I finally decide on getting a 2009 6.4 liter F-250. And everybody that knows Ford diesel trucks knows that the 6.4 and the 6.0 are absolute nightmares to take care of. They're basically a ticking time bomb, and at any given moment they could completely crap out and leave you stranded on the side of the road. Thankfully, I never had that happen, but I had so many thousands of dollars worth of repairs, and every single time I took the truck into the shop, it cost me at least $1,500. No, $1,400 I think was the lowest that it ever cost to fix something, but they would have to take the engine out, drop the transmission. I actually bought a new truck recently, and I will show you that very soon, tell you exactly what I got. It's not brand new, but it's newer-ish. I wanted to get an older truck, but it was kind of a time crunch. The people could not even tell me, the folks at my mechanic place, they couldn't even tell me how much it would cost or how long it would take to repair my my truck. And so I just went ahead and traded it in, got a new one. Didn't get a whole lot of trade-in value for it, but I got more than I probably should have, so I was happy about it. Then, like I said, I got a dump trailer. I went to Top Shelf, who does a very good job of making trailers, by the way. I watched a guy called Jack of All Trades, and he actually got me $250 off of a dump trailer from Top Shelf. So recommend if you, I recommend that if you are looking into getting a Top Shelf trailer, go look at his videos and see if you can find the one where he bought the trailer, because he should give the advice. I think if you just say like Jack of All Trades sent you, I'm pretty sure that they'll give you the discount. That's what I did. But cannot recommend it enough. I got a 16-foot trailer with 4-foot walls. It's about 7 feet-ish wide, and that thing has done so well for me. There's nothing that it can't dump. There's nothing that it can't handle that I've come across, and it looks great, and it's awesome. I just can't recommend it enough. Something that actually motivated me to get that dump trailer was actually a storm that we had in Florida, where all of the power to Dollar Generals across Jacksonville went out because of the storm, and so they had tens of thousands of pounds worth of food waste that they had to get rid of. And so I was like, okay, there's zero way I'm doing this with a wooden trailer. So I pretty much got the dump trailer specifically for that job, and I made about $11,000 in net profit that week alone doing, I want to say 20 or 21 Dollar General stores. It's the most nasty, disgusting job you could ever imagine, with rotting meat and ice cream and butter that was just like the consistency of like water and goopy. It was just so awful. I hated doing that job, but I would welcome that job again because it was so incredibly lucrative for me. Now, with that being said, let me share with you guys a few things that I would do differently if I was starting that business in 2025. I already kind of alluded to this, but I would design my website with something other than Squarespace. I'm not exactly sure what I would use. I know that if you use some applications that they're a lot more difficult to use, but I would do more research on what's the best SEO website builder that I could get, because I think that I don't really get a whole lot of traffic through my website unless I'm using advertisements. And I would love to build up my SEO. I know that it takes so many pages of SEO in order to actually show up on search, but that's something that I need to figure out at some point soon here, because having to pay money for every single lead that I get is stressful and frustrating. I would also start learning Google Ads earlier. So I mentioned that I did local service ads, and that worked really well for me for a time. But then there just got to be a point where I was paying like $200 or $300 some days on advertisements with my local service ads, and some days that would be great. I'd make, $1,000 that day, and it would totally offset the cost of that. But then there'd be other days where you'd pay for $200 worth of ads, and you would hardly get, you might get like a minimum pickup job, and that was just soul crushing. to work that hard, get up that early in the morning, and then end up breaking even or even being negative for the day. I also would have bought different trailers, probably looking back. I think that my second trailer, at the very least, was a pretty decent trailer, so I don't really recommend. I don't regret that one. The first trailer that I got, I don't really recommend. If I had it to do over again, I probably would have spent the extra $500 or $1,000 to just get a trailer that already had like steel walls on it, or some of them have almost like the mesh like metal on it. I think you can get ones that are like aluminum or whatever, but there are some people that make the bigger walls on their utility trailers, and I think that would have saved me a lot of heartache, because there is no price to me that isn't worth having the peace of mind driving down the highway. Because, you know, with plywood walls and everything, I was very confident in my building of those walls, but I would have been even more confident if I had just had something metal. You know, with my dump trailer, having the roll-on tarp and having those, you know, the steel walls, I mean, it makes me feel so relaxed going down the road, knowing that nothing is going to fly out. I also, along those lines, would have bought a different truck. I have spent on truck repairs alone in 2024, I have spent over $8,000 on just repairing my trucks. I had my F-250, who I affectionately named Earl, because if any of you have listened to the song Double Wide Trailer, there's a guy on there. He's a mechanic, and it says that he rebuilds engines, and his name is Earl. Well, this truck needed a rebuilt engine, probably, and his name is Earl. So I named it Earl, and he was a problem child. Earl cost me well over $5,000 in the 6 months that I had it. Probably more, honestly, because of different oil leaks in particular. And so if I had just bought, I could have bought a brand new truck and spent less per month than I would have had just making those payments for mechanic stuff with Earl. So goodbye, Earl. You will not be missed. And finally, the last thing that I regret is absolutely nothing, because the mistakes that I have made in this business have allowed me to grow so incredibly much. It has really allowed me to rely on the Lord in times where I don't know where my next job is going to come from, and when I'm really scared that this business idea that I had about a year and a half ago now was a terrible idea. And I don't think it was a bad idea. Even if I fail now, I think that it was one of the best things that I have ever decided to do. And it's helped me to grow into so much better of a person. I have so much more knowledge of how to do so many different things. I mean, I was a guy that I had never even changed the oil in my own truck before. And this business has pushed me so far out of my comfort zone. I mean, it stresses me out every day, but it makes me feel so alive, and it gives me something to work towards and to be passionate about every single day. And so if you're out there and you're watching this video thinking, should I start a junk removal company in 2025? I say go for it. There are very few startup costs. And if you take care of your customers, you do what you're supposed to do, you show up roughly when you say you're going to show up, and you meet your customers' needs and you don't price gouge, you will be able to figure out a way to make it in this business. I truly believe that. Even if it's part-time, having a trailer like I have, the value is going to stay roughly where I got it. And I've built so much equity for myself and in my company just in the year and 3 months that I've had it. So can't recommend it enough. If you guys are interested in following my junk removal journey, subscribe to this channel and I will take you guys along for the ride. I cannot wait to show you guys what I have in store for 2025. If you are watching this video and you have not subscribed to my channel, just go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you will be notified every single time I upload a new video, and you will be able to follow along with me on this junk removal journey. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.